Greetings. This is Doc Ock coming at you live and direct from Black Facts Headquarters Central here in Kent, Ohio. Yes, that's right. We got it going on again. It's now 9 o'clock and time to get started with this little party over here. You know, the first thing we like you to do to spread some more cheer is to give us a like if you're watching on Facebook and a thumbs up if you're watching on the tube. Then go ahead and spread the word far and wide to your friends and family about all the stories and the glory that we are sharing with all of you out there. And tonight's story is the last segment in a series on Abraham Hannibal and the Raiders of the Sand. Yes, it's very much a historical novel, but well written, well crafted historical novel. It comes in two parts: Abraham Hannibal and the Raiders of the Sands, and then part two is Abraham Hannibal and the battle for the throne. And we're talking about the throne of Tsarist Russia. Yes, Tsarist Russia, because black folks are everywhere. We are everywhere. So we can literally study black history and learn not only the history of the whole planet, but the whole universe. Yes, the whole universe, because we even have some people who claim to be from the planet Saturn. That's right. But that's another story. We'll have to go into that at another time. In the meanwhile, let's go ahead and talk some more about Abraham Hannibal. Let's see what's going on with him today. And the proverb for tonight is, an elephant's head is no load for a child. An elephant's head is no load for a child. And that is a Sierra Leone proverb. That's right, a proverb from the country of the mountain lions. Mountain lions, Sierra Leone. Mountain lion, straight up. So let's go ahead. Let's pick up where we left off at. We had left off with Abraham and another enslaved African young girl, and they were both marooned on a deserted island. They're marooned on a deserted island and trying to figure out how they're going to live, because they are now free. They're no longer enslaved. But it does bring into question, what does freedom really mean? Free to do what and how and what and where and when? And what does it actually take to be free? Because it's more than just a word that has been heard. And it's more than just a feeling that'll have you reeling. This is something real that'll have you dealing. And if you're not dealing, you probably will be reeling. So let's see how they solve their problems tonight. And in the meanwhile, let's get our slideshow started. So the image we're showing right now shows the image of some enslaved Africans in a slave ship, possibly one like the one that Abraham and Nagonga escaped from as it sank beneath the waters of the Red Sea. Either the Red Sea, I don't know if they sank in the Red Sea or the Mediterranean, but they sank around in that area, okay? So I'm not sure exactly of the exact location, but sink they did. So meanwhile, let's go ahead and do our thing. Chapter 25, the Lily Flower Flag. The Lily Flower Flag. The days passed. Abraham got a stick and scratched a mark on it for each day, just as he had done once before on a journey long ago in a far-off land. The nanny goats got quite used to being milked, though a liquid diet left the children permanently hungry. Soon they began to brave the blood-stained cottage, to use the pots for making soft cheese. Abraham ripped his robe into pieces to use as cheesecloth and lived in his undershorts. Neither Abraham nor Nagonga ever felt quite at ease. They would look anxiously out to where the little harbor's mouth led to the open sea, not knowing whether to hope for a ship or not. Their concern was that if they did see a ship and were taken off of the desert island, that they might just be re-enslaved. So that was a very big problem for them. Very big problem for them. Yes, and it looks like this little island that they were shipwrecked on was actually in the Mediterranean, just out before you get to Turkey. Okay, just before Istanbul. So, whoops, I forgot. Got to go back to the page. All right. So, so they didn't know whether they wanted to be rescued off of the island or not. There's a bridge of loss and gain, or a blessing. Could be a blessing and a curse at the very same time. 3 times they saw ships sail past, but they never changed course to come into the harbor. The children built themselves a little round hut of sticks and grass, and when they had done that, spent the time telling each other tales of their past lives, or after a careful check out to sea, splashing in the shallow water near the beach. Neither of them ever tried swimming out of their depth. Deep water held too many memories, especially for Abraham. And every night, just as in the desert, just as on the ship, Abraham repeated to himself like a magic charm the words of his message to the Sun King. Then one day, day 37 since the shipwreck, it was by Abraham's stick, a ship did change course. The children took no chances. They had already found a perfect lookout spot. A huge cracked rock with bushes growing out of the cracks, high up on the slope overlooking the little harbor. They could stand behind it, shaded and hidden, and peer down onto the beach and the whole harbor, and that was what they did now. The ship was a big one, almost too big for the tiny harbor, but it passed in through the narrow entrance skillfully. She was the biggest ship the children had ever seen, with 2 masts and at least 10 sails and shiny cannons poking out of her sides. As she came closer, they could see that she had had some kind of battering. There was the broken stump of a 3rd mast, and the sails and rigging looked torn and untidy, but then neither of them knew much about ships. "Is it a slave ship?" asked Nagonga. "I think the killers will come in a slave ship." "I wish I knew," whispered Abraham, not knowing why he was whispering since the ship was far out of earshot. "But it looks quite different from Master Ahmet's one. I wonder if it's Frankish. That would be the best thing. The Franks would never take a Christian as a slave." There was a name written on the ship's side, but it was very far away, and in any case, Abraham had never learnt any other Frankish or the Arabic alphabet. "Don't forget, I'm not a Christian," pointed out Nagonga. "You're with me. You can become a Christian, just like my mother, after she was captured." There was a distant clank and rattle and splash of the anchor chain being lowered. The big ship was still quite far out, but it had come as near the shore as it dared. And then as Abraham squinted at every corner of the ship, desperate for clues, a great flood of relief swept right through him. He gave a loud whoop of joy, pulled Nagonga out from behind the rock with both hands, and whirled her round, chanting at the top of his voice, "The lily flower, the lily flower, the lily flower." The 2 of them whirled round and round and round until they both collapsed, breathless on the grass. The goats that had been grazing nearby scattered in amazement. Nagonga was completely bewildered too. "What's happened, Abraham? What are you saying? Look there at the back of the ship. What'd you call it? The flag. It's the lily flower of France. Do you remember I told you about Dr. Poncet and the Sun King? It's their country. This ship will take us to France, to the palace of the Sun King. I'm going to deliver my message at last. The Sun King is really going to see that the youth of Ethiopia are the best in the world, second to nobody. Abraham knelt up and grabbed Nagonga by the shoulders, shouting into her face, "Just think, Nagonga, just think. He'll be standing there. The Sun King will be standing there in his palace in a huge hall with 100 mirrors, and each mirror is as tall as a tree. There are enormous windows that look out over the palace gardens. There are stone images of animals and men out there, spouting water high into the air, and trees and bushes cut into amazing shapes. And I'm in a carriage with wheels. It's pulled by horses as fast as the wind, and I'm riding up the road through the gardens to the Sun King's palace. You're with me, of course, so we're both in the carriage, galloping nearer and nearer. And when we get there, the servants help us to climb out of the carriage, and there's music and drums and trumpets to welcome us, and the servants lead us up a gigantic staircase with wonderful pictures painted on all the walls and the ceiling, and the servants lead us into this enormous hall, and there's the Sun King, standing up on a platform, standing next to his huge, fancy, golden chair. He's wearing a bushy white wig, just like Dr. Ponset, and shining clothes full of silver and gold thread, and a great cloak trimmed with fur. His crown's on the table next to him, and Dr. Ponset is there, smiling all over his face, because he's so pleased to see that I've arrived at last. And then I bow like a real Franc, like this. Abraham jumped to his feet, bowed low as the doctor had taught him all those months before, and shouted out at the top of his voice, "The Emperor of Ethiopia sends brotherly greetings to the King of the Franks. My name is Abraham, and my father is a noble lord of Africa." He pulled Nagonga to her feet. "Come on, Nagonga, let's go down and greet them." And hand in hand, the two children raced down the hillside to the beach and waited for the Sun King's sailors. Now we know this is not the end of the story for sure. We also know that I don't think he made it to France at that period of time. Pretty sure that's not where he ended up at next. But we shall see. What we also do know, I'm going to read here from the afterword, that Abraham was a real person. He himself wrote how his father was an African prince and how he was taken from his home when he was a little boy. His family used to describe him weeping as an old man when he remembered his favorite sister drowning in the sea as his ship sailed away from the coast of Africa. Some of the details of this story are made up, but many of the characters really existed. For instance, the Emperor Xxiii the Great, Dr. Ponset, the King of Mecca, who really did kidnap Dr. Ponset's group of Ethiopian children, and of course, the Sun King, Louis XIV of France. Abraham really did get to France in the end, but he didn't spend his life there. He became a famous general and a rich landowner in Russia, where he took the surname Annibal. His great-grandson was the famous Russian writer Alexander Pushkin. Read about Abraham's adventures after he escapes from Goat Island in Abraham, Annibal, and the Battle for the Throne. That was the other book that I showed you a little bit earlier. So there we have it in a nutshell, the first half of the story of Abraham Annibal. It'll be up to you to pick up the book. You can get it on Amazon and read more of his story for yourself. Excellent book. I have to say, it's an excellent book. You see, I've read it twice now, and it's been some years ago when I read it the first time, and it's still holding up. I've folded back the pages. It's got very good binding, nice tight binding. Some of these books will fall apart when you try to read them. They're so cheaply made in order to just make, get the money. They don't really put all their resources into the quality control. But this one is made very well. Excellent book, inexpensive. You can get it on Amazon. Don't wait till later, because if they find out that it's becoming popular, somebody will raise the price. So get them now while you can, and read more about Abraham Anabal and his adventures outside in Ethiopia and outside of Ethiopia as well. So his adventures in Africa and Eurasia. Africa and Eurasia. In the meanwhile, all you little children out there know what time it is. Don't make me have to give you a quiz for you to figure out what time it is. It's mighty well near time to take your little head and put it on your little pillow, on your little bed, and close those your eyes while you wait for that sun to rise. And when those sunbeams start to beaming down on your eyes, you know there's time to rise and shine, oh children of mine, even brighter than the sun king. When you feel those beams beaming down your eyes, it should be just like hearing a bell ring off in your head and wake you right on up out of your bed. And in the meanwhile, all you adults, what we need you to do, give us a like if you're watching on Facebook, a thumbs up if you're watching us on YouTube, and then go ahead and subscribe below to the Tubular Black Facts channel. You see the button? Hit it, quit it, don't forget it, do it right now. You might as well anyhow. And in the meantime, we'll be black tomorrow, because this is Doc Ock at noon and 9 signing off. Peace with justice, because anything less disgusts us. And we don't like being disgusted, but we do like being discussed. So feel free to talk about us. Feel free to do that. But just give us some peace with justice, and everything will be all right. Peace out, y'all.